Hello champions, in this session we are going to be covering all the TCS sections one by one. So even if you are somebody who is learning TCS for the very first time, you can still watch this video. This video will be a big value add for you. So there are totally 5 sections only in TCS guys. Number 1, we have section 206C1 which deals with atoms. I'll tell you what atoms are. Then we have section 206C1F which deals with motor vehicles. And then we have section 206C1H which deals with other goods. Okay, and then we have 2 more sections, 206C1G which deals with 2 things which I'll tell you what they are, and then 206C1C which deals with lease or license. Now see, these 3 sections, one family, these 2 sections, one family. In these 3 sections, a common point is there is goods. We are buying or selling goods. Okay. So I'll tell you how TCS will work. I have the buyer on one side. I have the seller on the other side. The seller is selling goods to the buyer. So when the buyer is paying consideration for the goods, along with the consideration, the buyer will pay TCS also to the seller. So who is the main person over here? The seller becomes a main person. The seller becomes a collector of tax. Now for the seller, for the collector, we have to ensure he has the TAN number, the tax deduction and collection account number. The other party, who is the buyer should be furnishing PAN or Aadhaar. At least one out of these 2 numbers he should be furnishing. You got a brief idea how exactly TCS works, right? So when the seller is selling goods to the buyer will pay consideration for the goods. Along with the consideration, the buyer also has to pay TCS for the goods also. So the seller becomes a collector of tax. Collector's TAN number is mandatory. Other party who is a buyer's PAN or Aadhaar, at least one is mandatory. Okay, now let us focus on each of these 3 sections one by one first. Let's talk about section 206C1F first. So here what happens guys, we have the buyer on one side, we have the seller on the other side. The seller has sold to the buyer a motor vehicle. Please notice I am not using the word motor car. I am using the word motor vehicle. Motor vehicle or any other notified goods seller has sold to the buyer. Then in that case, section 206C1F will apply. But there are 4 conditions. Condition number 1, what are the goods we're talking about? The goods have to be motor vehicle or any other goods. Then condition number 2, the selling price per vehicle, the selling price has to be more than 10 lakh. Please notice we're not talking about aggregate sale value. We're talking about the per vehicle sale value. It has to be more than 10 lakhs. Point number 3, the buyer, this person who is buying the vehicle, this buyer has to be a retail buyer. That is, a buyer must be an end consumer. He must be buying the car for himself. He must be a retail buyer, which means he must be buying the car for himself. He should not be a retailer. And the 4th condition guys, the last condition is that the seller should be an R hijack seller. Now what do you mean by R hijack seller? I'll tell you. See, R hijack seller means a seller who either he will be an individual or a HUF, or he will be any other person guys. So if he's an individual or HUF, then in that case his preceding previous year turnover should be more than 1 crore, or his preceding previous year gross receipt should be more than 50 lakhs. Understanding? So be careful. Either he will be an individual or HUF, or he will be any other person. Any other person, I will not check the turnover gross receipt number. If he's an individual or HUF, his preceding previous year turnover has to be more than 1 crore, or preceding previous year gross receipt has to be more than 50 lakhs. Now in the examination, don't go and write R hijack seller and all. This is only a mnemonic to help you remember and to help you recall, but you will be writing this instead. Okay, so 4 conditions. If all these 4 conditions are fulfilled, welcome to 206C1F. Under 206C1F, TCS will be at the rate of 1% at the time of receipt. Okay, what are the 4 conditions? Come on guys, learn it with me. Now either you learn it with me now, or there is no time then. So come on, let's finish the learning together. Condition number 1, goods are motor vehicles or any other notified goods. Condition number 2, selling price per vehicle is more than 10 lakhs. Condition number 3, buyer is a retail buyer, that is, he's an end consumer. And condition number 4, seller is an R hijack seller. If all these 4 conditions are fulfilled, welcome to 206C1F, and here the TCS rate is 1% at the time of receipt. Okay, so with this we are done with our first TCS section 206C1F. Now come to the next TCS section 206C1. I'll tell you what happens over here. So here again we have the seller and we have the buyer guys. So this time the buyer is This time the seller is selling to the buyer goods, and these goods are atoms. Now what are these atoms? A stands for alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Then T stands for tendu leaves. Another T stands for timber. O stands for other forest produce, M stands for minerals. Minerals like iron ore, coal, lignite and all, and S stands for scrap. Okay, so these are your atoms. So the seller is selling goods to the buyer. What kind of goods? Atoms. Even over here the seller is an R hijack seller, which means same thing guys, either he will be an individual or HUF, or he will be any other person. If he's an individual or a HUF, you will see his preceding previous year turnover, it should be more than 1 crore, or his preceding previous year gross receipt should be more than 50 lakhs, same point. So the seller is an R hijack seller. Seller is selling atoms to the buyer. Now very unique point about the buyer, okay, this buyer, see, sometimes what happens is the buyer will give to the seller one declaration. Sometimes the declaration is called as 206C 1A declaration. Now 206C 1A declaration means the buyer is saying in the declaration that, listen, I am buying atoms from you. Now these atoms, I am not going to resell these atoms, I am not going to trade in these atoms. Instead, I am going to use these goods for further manufacturing, or I am going to use these goods for power generation, but I'm not going to trade in these goods. So like this, the buyer will give a declaration to the seller many times. If the buyer has given this declaration guys, in that case, no TCS at all. No TCS at all means under any section TCS will not apply. Okay. Question number 1. Can the buyer give this declaration for any goods, for every goods? No. The buyer can give this declaration only for atoms. This declaration concept will not apply for motor vehicle and all. It's only for atoms. Point number 1. Point number 2. If the buyer is giving this declaration, then okay, fine, no 206C1. But any other TCS section can you apply? No. No TCS at all. Which means no TCS section you can apply. But can you apply TDS section? In TDS, we have 194Q. No. If 194Q conditions are fulfilled, can you apply that? Yes, apply TDS, no problem. Only thing is no TCS at all. TDS, you may still apply provided conditions are fulfilled. Okay, so under section 206C1, come on guys, let's revise now. Under 206C1, let's go in depth now. Totally 3 conditions. Condition number 1, what are the goods I'm talking about over here? The goods are atoms. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, tendu leaves, timber, other forest produce, minerals and scrap. Okay. Condition number 2, the seller is an R hijack seller, which means if he's an individual or HUF, preceding previous year turnover gross receipt should be more than the limit. Condition number 3 is that the buyer should not have given this declaration guys, because if the buyer gives this declaration, then no TCS at all. So therefore, if you want to apply this section, the buyer should not have given the declaration. Okay, so if all these 3 conditions are fulfilled, welcome to 206C1. Now under 206C1, what will be the TCS rate? It depends. If it is tendu leaves, then 5%. Then TO2, timber, other forest produce, for these 2, the TCS rate will be 2.5%. Everywhere else, 1%. And this TCS will be collected when? At the time of receipt or debit, whichever is earlier. In TDS, we say payment or credit, whichever is earlier. No, ulta in TCS, receipt or debit, whichever is earlier. Okay, that's all. This is 206C1 atoms. Now, I'm not going to let you, go on so easily. Before we go to the next section, can we try to do one comparative analysis between our first 2 TCS sections? 2 TCS sections we have completed. No, 206C1F, which talks about motor vehicles, and 206C1, which talks about atoms. So let's do one comparative analysis between the 2. 206C1F, the first TCS section, what kind of goods are we talking about? Motor vehicles or any other notified goods. 206C1, the second TCS section, the goods over here are atoms. Then in 206C1F, what was the TCS rate? 1% guys, 1% at the time of receipt. In 206C1, 3 TCS rates we have. For tendu leaves, it is 5%. For TO, that is T for timber, and O for other forest produce, it was 2.5%. Everywhere else, it is 1%. When? At the time of receipt or debit, whichever is earlier. Then in 206C1F, who should the buyer be? The buyer should be a retail buyer, which means the buyer should be an end consumer who's buying the car, who's buying the vehicle for himself. Under 206C1, the buyer should be a person who has not given the 206C1A declaration. If he gives the declaration, then no TCS at all. Then who should the seller be? This is a common point. In both, the seller has to be an R hijack seller. This is a common point. And lastly, in 206C1F, we have a unique point. selling price per vehicle has to be more than 10 lakhs. No such requirement in 2061. Okay, now I am confident that you have nicely understood. So can I say the first two sections you will be able to handle in the examination? Yes, yes, yes. Come on, everybody. Let's go to the third TCS section now, 206C1H, which deals with TCS on goods. Now, this section will apply if three conditions are fulfilled. Let me draw the diagram first over here. Even over here, guys, we have two people in the story. We have the seller and we have the buyer. The seller is selling goods to the buyer. Here, the goods can be any kind of goods, guys. It can be vehicle also, it can be items also, it can be any other goods also, it can be any kind of goods, okay, it doesn't matter. But three conditions have to be fulfilled. Condition number 1, the seller, his preceding previous year turnover should be more than 10 crore. Now, this is not our hijack seller. This is not our hijack seller. Here I am saying the seller can be any person, can be individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, company, firm, LLP, HUF, any person. Seller can be any person, just that his preceding previous year turnover has to be more than 10 crore, not 1 crore. In our hijack, we talk about 1 crore, not 1 crore over here. The preceding previous year turnover has to be more than 10 crore. Okay. Condition number 2, no other TDS or TCS should apply. Like for example, guys, if section 206C1F, see, listen to me. If section 206C1F is also applicable and this section 206C1H also is applicable, then you will give first preference to 206C1F. If section 206C1 is also applicable, if 206C1H is also applicable, then you will give preference to 206C1. If section 194Q TDS is also applicable, section 206C1H is also applicable, you will give preference to 194Q, which means 206C1H is the least preferable section. If none of the other sections is applicable, then only you will apply 206C1H. Understanding? If any other TDS section is applicable, if any other TC section is applicable, apply that. Don't apply 206C1H. If none of the other TDS or TCS sections are applicable, only then you will apply 206C1H. Okay. And then comes a third condition. Between this buyer and between the seller in the entire year put together, total transaction, total sale, including GST, the total sale is more than 50 lakh rupees. So condition number 1, the seller should be a person whose preceding previous year turnover is more than 10 crore. Condition number 2, no other TDS, no other TCS is applicable. Condition number 3, the aggregate transaction between this buyer and seller in the entire year, including GST, should be more than 50 lakhs. If all these three conditions are fulfilled, welcome to 206C1H. In 206C1H, very special point, guys, the TCS rate is only 0.1%. 0.1% of the excess above 50 lakhs, which means if the total transaction between the buyer and seller is, let's say, 60 lakhs, okay. So in that case, what is the excess above 50 lakhs? 10 lakhs. No, the 10 lakhs into 0.1%, this is what the TCS will be, and this TCS will be collected at the time of receipt. Okay, so this was 206C1H. Three conditions, tell me one last time. The seller is a person whose preceding previous year turnover is more than 10 crores. Condition number 2, no other TDS, no other TCS is applicable. And condition number 3, the aggregate transaction including GST is more than 50 lakh rupees. If all these conditions are fulfilled, then the TCS rate at the rate of 0.1% of the excess will apply. 0.1% of the excess above 50 lakhs. Okay, 0.1%. And when will the TCS be collected? At the time of receipt. Alright, this was your third TCS section. So with this, all the three TCS section with respect to goods you have completed. 206C1F is only for motor vehicles. 206C1 is only for atoms. 206C1H is for all goods. Okay. Now coming to the other two TCS sections, 206C1C and 206C1G. Let's talk about 206C1C first. Very simple section, guys. Easiest TCS section this is. Under 206C1C, what happens is, we're talking about lease or license of four things: toll plaza, mine, quarry or parking lot. Like for example, let's say the government has given Mr. Green a coal mine on lease. So therefore Green will give to the government lease charges, guys. So when Green is giving lease charges to the government, along with the lease charges, the government will collect TCS also. So lease or license of toll plaza, mine, quarry or parking lot. Welcome to 206C1C. There are no limits over here, no turnover criteria, nothing, guys. Simple section this is. The point is, when you are paying lease charges, along with the lease charges, you'll also have to pay TCS. TCS at what rate? At the rate of 2% at the time of debit or receipt, whichever is earlier. Okay, lease or license of 4 things: toll plaza, mine, quarry, parking lot. TCS at the rate of 2% will apply at the time of debit or receipt, whichever is earlier. Okay, then comes your last TCS section, guys, 206C1G. This, according to me, is the most important TCS section from your September 25 examination point of view. Let me discuss this with you carefully. Now, under 206C1G, see, listen, you have completed the remaining 4 TCS sections. This is the last TCS section, guys. After this, 2 extra points only we have. So come on, patiently, nicely, slowly, let's understand this section 206C1G. Inside this section, there are 2 limbs, okay? Let's focus on the first limb. The second limb is a very small and simple point only. The whole drama is in the first limb only. So in the first limb, we're talking about overseas remittance. Full FEMA flashback you will get over here. So let's say there's this person, Mr. Blue, he is in India, and there's this person, Mr. Green, who's in the US, okay? So Blue wants to make an outward remittance to Green. Blue wants to basically send money to Green. So, and he wants to send money under LRS, that is under liberalized remittance scheme, without RBI approval, up to $250,000 he wants to send. Okay. So when he gives the money to the authorized dealer, along with the money, the authorized dealer will collect TCS from him. Now let's understand how to calculate this TCS. It depends upon the amount. It also depends upon the purpose. Up to 7 lakh rupees, there will be no TCS. Up to 7 lakh rupees, no TCS. If the overseas remittance is more than 7 lakh rupees, then on the excess there will be TCS. At what rate? If it is out of section 80E loan, which means out of education loan, then at the rate of 0.5% of the excess. If it is for education purposes or medical purposes, then at the rate of 5% of the excess. For any other purpose, it will be at the rate of 20% of the excess. Okay, let me give you one small numerical example to help you understand. Look at this example. Let us say I did totally 3 transactions during the year. My first transaction was I made an overseas remittance of 2 lakh rupees out of section 80E loan. 7 lakhs exemption I have. 2 lakhs is within 7 lakhs, guys. So therefore on this transaction there will be no TCS. So total 7 lakh exemption I have, and mind you, this 7 lakh is per annum exemption. It's an aggregate exemption per annum, which means all the transactions during the year put together, total exemption I can get for 7 lakh rupees only. Every year this limit will reset. So per annum limit, aggregate limit 7 lakhs. So out of 7 lakhs, how much exemption I have enjoyed? 2 lakhs exemption I have enjoyed. So how much exemption I still have? 5 lakhs exemption I still have. Okay. Then I entered into the second transaction after this. My second transaction was, let's say, in September. This time I'm making an overseas remittance of 11 lakh rupees for medical treatment. Now out of this 11 lakh rupees, how much exemption I will enjoy for TCS? 5 lakh exemption I'm left with, no. So I will enjoy 5 lakh exemption. So TCS will be only on the balance 6 lakhs, guys. So education purpose or medical purpose, the TCS rate will be 5%. So 5% of 6 lakhs is going to be 30,000 rupees. This is what my TCS will be for the second transaction. Okay. Then after this, what happened on in the month of December, I made one more overseas remittance. I spent 1 lakh rupees for some other purpose on 12th December 24. Now, do I have any exemption left, guys? Total 7 lakh exemption I have for the year. 2 lakhs I enjoyed against this 80E loan. Then 5 lakhs I enjoyed over here against a medical treatment loan. So do I have any exemption left out of the 7 lakhs? No, nothing is left. So I'm making an overseas remittance of 1 lakh. Any other purpose, for any other purpose, the TCS rate is 20%. So at the rate of 20%, I'll have to pay TCS. Getting my point, everybody? So the point over here, the main point over here is that number one, the TCS rate will depend upon the amount of the overseas remittance also. It will depend on the purpose also. Up to 7 lakh exemption you will get. 7 lakh is going to be the total aggregate exemption for all the transactions put together. For all the purposes put together, 7 lakh total exemption you will get. Okay. Per annum this exemption limit is. And one more thing is, see, can I say that 80E loan is only 0.5%. So over here, I will not enjoy the 7 lakh exemption. Instead, let me enjoy the 7 lakh exemption over here because TCS rate is higher. No, I can't say like that. I'll have to go in chronological order. First transaction happened on 1st May 24. So here I will enjoy the 7 lakh exemption for the first time. Second transaction happened on 1st September 24. So balance exemption I will enjoy over here. Third transaction happened on 12th December 24. On that date, I was not even left with any exemption. So therefore, on the entire amount, TCS will be collected. You're getting my point, guys? So we'll have to go in chronological order. Understanding? So on the first, if I'm making an overseas remittance, listen to my final revision. If I'm making an overseas remittance, on the first 7 lakh, there will be no TCS. Then whatever is the excess overseas remittance, excess above 7 lakhs, on that excess there will be TCS. Rate of TCS will depend upon the purpose. If this excess is relating to section 80E education loan, then on this excess the TCS rate will be at the rate of 0.5%. If this excess is relating to some education purpose or medical purpose, then the TCS rate will be at the rate of 5% of this excess. If the excess overseas remittance is relating to any other purpose, then the TCS rate will be at the rate of 20% of this excess. Okay, so on the first 7 lakh of the overseas remittance, no TCS. On the excess remittance above 7 lakh, on the excess only there will be TCS. The rate will depend upon the purpose. Alright guys, this was your first limb under 260(1)(g). Now listen, there is one more possibility in the first limb itself. The possibility is something which they have not tested till now, so be careful. There may be a possibility where, let's say, I want to make an overseas remittance, guys. Like, let's say Blue is sending money through Western Union also. Blue is sending money through Thomas Cook also. So Blue is sending money through multiple authorized dealers. Same person is sending money through multiple authorized dealers. Then will this 7 lakh exemption limit apply per authorized dealer? No. See, I'll give you a numerical example to help you understand better, okay? So we have this person, Mr. Blue. He's making an overseas remittance. Through Western Union, he's making an overseas remittance of 6 lakh rupees, let us say. Then through Thomas Cook, he's making again an overseas remittance of 5 lakh rupees. So can he say that even over here it is within 7 lakh rupees, hence no TCS? Even over here it is within 7 lakh rupees, hence no TCS? Can he say like that? No, he can't say like that. Basically, Mr. Blue, listen. Total whatever overseas remittance you're making during the year, total put together up to 7 lakh, you can make an exemption. You can enjoy the exemption. So here you are making a remittance of 11 lakh rupees, no? So on 7 lakh only, no TCS, you can enjoy exemption. On the balance 4 lakh rupees, on that TCS will apply. But one problem will happen over here. The problem is, how will Thomas Cook know that how much overseas remittance you have made through Western Union? How will Western Union know that how much overseas remittance you have made through Thomas Cook? How will these people know that how much overseas remittance you have already made? For this purpose only, there's one concept of declaration. The concept goes like this. The concept says that Mr. Blue, like whenever he wants to make an overseas remittance, no, he will have to make a declaration, guys. So Western Union will give a form to Mr. Blue and will ask Mr. Blue to fill the form. In that form, Mr. Blue will have to fill that, he'll have to say whether during the year has he already made any overseas remittance or not. He will fill in the form and he will give. So he has to make a declaration. So that is what is mentioned over here. The remitter will give a declaration to the authorized dealer about all prior remittances already completed during the year. Okay, so 7 lakh limit is aggregate limit in the entire year. So even if you're sending the money through multiple authorized dealers, still 7 lakh exemption you can enjoy. Total put together you are sending 11 lakh rupees, which is more than 7 lakh rupees. So on the excess 4 lakh rupees, there will be TCS. But how will the authorized dealers know that how much have you already remitted through other authorized dealers? For that purpose only you are supposed to give a declaration. When you are making a remittance through Western Union will ask you to give a declaration saying how much have you already remitted through other authorized dealers. So on that basis calculation will happen. Okay guys, so 7 lakh is aggregate limit per annum. Okay, so this was your first limb, guys, overseas remittance. Then comes the second limb with respect to overseas tour package. This is very simple. Let's say Mr. Blue wants to go to Australia for a vacation. So he is buying a tour package from Make My Trip. Tour package means not just travel ticket, even stay. So travel ticket plus stay, full tour package he is buying from Make My Trip. Not for domestic tour package. He is not going to Shimla. He is going to Australia. He is going outside India. Okay, overseas tour package he is buying from Make My Trip. So when he buys his tour package, he has to pay Make My Trip consideration. So along with consideration, Make My Trip will collect TCS also. How much TCS? On the first 7 lakhs, 5% TCS will be collected. On the balance above 7 lakhs, 20% TCS will be collected. Be careful, over here 7 lakhs is not an exemption amount. Whether it is less than 7 lakh, whether it is more than 7 lakh, TCS will apply. Only thing is that rate will change. Like for example, if I buy overseas tour package for 8 lakhs, okay, then in that case, on the first 7 lakh, TCS will be at the rate of 5% only. On the balance 1 lakh, TCS rate will be at the rate of 20%. Understanding? So in the first limb, 7 lakhs was exemption amount. Up to 7 lakhs, no TCS. In the second limb, whether it is less than 7 lakh, whether more than 7 lakh, doesn't matter. TCS will apply. Only thing is rate will change. Up to 7 lakh, TCS will be 5%. On the excess above 7 lakh, the TCS will be 20%. Okay guys, and lastly, no TCS on payments made by international credit cards. Alright, perfect. So can we make one quick revision of all the 5 TCS sections? With this, all our 5 TCS sections we have completed. Let's do one nice quick revision. Our first TCS section was section 206C1F, right? Now in this TCS section there were totally 4 conditions. Condition number 1, the seller should be an R hijack seller. Condition number 2, what kind of goods are we talking about? We're talking about motor vehicles or notified goods. And condition number 3, the selling price per vehicle the selling price has to be more than 10 lakh rupees. And condition number 4 is that the buyer has to be a retail buyer, which means he must be an end consumer. So if all these conditions are fulfilled, then TCS will be at the rate of 1% when at the time of receipt. Right? So this was your 206C1F, your first TCS section. Then after this, our second TCS section was section 206C1. So in this section, we had 3 conditions only. Condition number 1, what kind of goods are we talking about? Atoms. Then condition number 2, the seller is an R hijack seller. And condition number 3 is that the buyer should be a person who has not given section 206C1A declaration. Because if he gives this declaration, then no TCS at all. No TCS under any section will apply, no TCS at all. But this declaration can be given only for atoms. You can't give this declaration for other goods like motor vehicles and all. You can't give this declaration. It's only for atoms. So if this declaration is given under any section for that transaction, TCS will not apply, but TDS may still apply if 194Q conditions are fulfilled. So if all these conditions are fulfilled, TCS rate will be at what rate? On Tendo leaves, it will be at the rate of 5%. On TO2, that is on timber and other forest produce, at the rate of 2.5%. Everything else at the rate of 1%. When will this TCS be collected? At the time of receipt or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. Okay, and what does ATOM stand for? A for alcoholic liquor for human consumption, T for Tendo leaves, T for timber, O for other forest produce, M for minerals, and S for scrap. Then after this, our third TCS section was 206C1H. Here we had only 3 conditions, guys. Condition number 1 is that the seller can be any person, just that his preceding previous year turnover has to be more than 10 crore. Then condition number 2, no other TDS section should apply, no other TCS section should apply. Last priority only you will give to 206C1H. And condition number 3 is that the aggregate sale between the buyer and the seller, including GST, the aggregate sale has to be more than 50 lakh in that particular year. So if all these conditions are fulfilled, then TCS at the rate of 0.1% will apply, but 0.1% of the excess above 50 lakhs. And when will this be collected? At the time of receipt. Okay. Then after this, our next TCS section was section 206C1C, where we spoke about lease or license. Lease or license of how many things? 4 things, guys. We had mine, quarry, toll plaza, or parking lot. So any of these things, lease or license, TCS will be at the rate of 2% at the time of receipt or credit, whichever is earlier. And then finally, now we learnt about section 206C1G. Now here we had 2 limbs. In our first limb, we're talking about overseas remittance. So if I am making an overseas remittance, how much exemption will I enjoy, guys? Up to 7 lakh. Up to 7 lakh, aggregate up to 7 lakh, there will be no TCS at all. But if I make a remittance above 7 lakh, whatever is the excess above 7 lakh, on the excess there will be TCS. The TCS rate will depend upon the purpose of the remittance. If the remittance is out of section 80E education loan, then the TCS rate will be very small rate at the rate of 0.5% of this excess. But if the excess is relating to some education purpose or some medical purpose, then here the TCS will be at the rate of 5% of this excess. If the excess is relating to any other person, here the TCS will be collected at the rate of 20% of this excess. Okay, and then one more point we had learnt with respect to overseas tour package. In overseas tour package also we talk about the 7 lakh number, but here 7 lakh is not an exemption. Only thing is TCS rate changes. So if the overseas tour package is up to 7 lakh, then the TCS rate will be at the rate of 5%. If it is more than 7 lakh, then up to 7 lakh 5%. Whatever is the excess above 7 lakh, on the excess the TCS rate will be 20%. Even 206C1G, even here the TCS will be collected at the time of receipt or credit, whichever is earlier. So if you notice, see 2 sections, all right, 206C1F and 206C1H. These two sections only we collect TCS at the time of receipt. All the other sections we collect TCS at the time of receipt or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. Only these two sections only we collect at the time of receipt. All other sections, receipt or credit, whichever is earlier. Understanding, guys? So with this, all our 5 TCS sections I've discussed with you. I've also given you a summary over here. Now come on, one final thing, guys, listen to me. Section 206CC. Like how in TDS you have section 206AA. In TDS, when does 206AA apply, guys? It applies when the deductee is neither giving PAN nor giving Aadhaar. That is when you apply 206AA. Similarly, in TCS we have 206CC, right? So in TCS what happens is we have the seller and we have the buyer, guys. So when the seller is collecting consideration from the buyer, along with the consideration, seller will collect TCS also. So the main person over here is a seller. Seller's PAN number is required, but the other party is buyer. Buyer's PAN or Aadhaar, at least one we require. But if the buyer is neither giving PAN nor giving Aadhaar, he's neither giving PAN nor he's giving Aadhaar, then 206CC will apply. Because of 206CC, the TCS rate will increase. The TCS rate will now become 2 times the rate or 5%, whichever is higher, but maximum 20%. Like for example, let's say 206C1F is applicable, okay, and the buyer is neither giving PAN nor giving Aadhaar. So the TCS rate will be 2 times the rate. In 206C1F, the rate is 1%. So 2 times of 1% will be 2% or 5%, whichever is higher. Which is higher? 5%, but it should not exceed 20%. Yes, it is not exceeding 20%. So 2 times the rate or 5%, whichever is higher, but maximum 20%. I'll tell you why 20%, okay? Because in 206C1G, how will the computation be? Just imagine, let us say 20% TCS rate is applicable. In 206C1G, you have the 20% TCS rate, right? Let's say the 20% TCS rate is applicable and PAN, Aadhaar, none of these two numbers you're furnishing. So 2 times the rate, 2 times of 20% will become 40%. 40% or 5%, whichever is higher will be 40%. It will be too high. So that is why we are restricting it. We are putting a cap over here that in any case TCS should not exceed 20%. Okay. So 2 times the rate or 5%, whichever is higher, but maximum 20%. However, in 206C1H, remember 206C1H, guys, in 206C1H alone it is slightly different. In 206C1H it will be 2 times the rate. So in 206C1H TCS rate is 0.1% of the excess above 50 lakhs. So 0.1% into 2, which will be 0.2%, or 1%, whichever is higher, that is 1%. So in simple words, in 206C1H, instead of 5%, it will be 1%. That's all, guys. Okay, but when will you apply this? You will apply this section only if the buyer is neither giving PAN nor giving Aadhaar. None of the two numbers he is giving. Only then 206CC you will apply. In 206CC, TCS rate will increase 2 times the rate or 5%, whichever is higher, but maximum 20%. But if it is 206C1H, instead of 5%, 1%. Okay, that's all. And one last point, in 206C1, your atoms section, 206C1F, your motor vehicle section, 206C1C, lease or license section. In these sections, the collectee, basically the person from whom you're collecting tax, that person should not be a public sector company. Okay, 3 sections I'm talking about: 206C1 atoms, 206C1F motor vehicles, 206C1C lease or license. In all of these 3 sections, the person from whom you're collecting tax, that person should not be a public sector company. Alright, with this, your entire TCS discussion is completed. Now you're ready to take up any question you will be able to handle. There are totally 5 TCS sections, guys. 206C1 atoms, 206C1F motor vehicles, 206C1H all goods, 206C1G, which is relating to your 2 things: overseas remittance and your overseas tour package, and 206C1C, which deals with lease or license. Pakka? Thorough? Yes, this PDF I'll upload in the free resources on the website. I'll also share it in the Telegram channel. So with this, I think we are good to close. I think we did a very good coverage of TCS. I hope you are not going to skip this concept now. You will tell me in the comment section below if you found this video useful. Okay, thank you guys. Bye bye.